Okay, well, today I'm Janet Oliver from Plan for Learning. This is Wendy Nelson for Sense Enabled in Seattle, Washington. I'm in Minneapolis, Minnesota. And today we're going to be talking about neurodevelopment and the inner senses, what I call the inner senses. They're the body senses. And we're going to start today with the gravity sense, what I call the gravity sense. It is scientifically more known as vestibular functioning or vestibulation. It is how humans understand and respond to gravity. And it's one of my favorite senses because I believe it's the most important. I think it's the most important not because I say so, but because the human body, it's one of the first senses, like before you're even in your embryonic state, you're already developing the gravity sense. And as a matter of fact, your cells are already reacting to gravity the moment you're one cell. So gravity has a great influence on that development, and that development continues to refine itself and grow all the way until a person is, mature, which is what, around in 30, right? It's still maturing all the way until 30, and then you have a few years of good years, and then it immediately starts going the other way. Because gravity, we are fighting against gravity. I guess fighting is kind of a strong word, but we are pushing against gravity. And if we didn't push against gravity every day, we just start slumping, right? And we start, because our muscles have to push against gravity for us to sit up, to stand up, to do anything that we do. We need push energy to do that, to keep in our body here. So the gravity sense, many reflexes are help to develop the gravity sense, both in utero and then at birth and then right after birth. Wendy, do you want to talk about any of those? TLR or?
I think just that it's we, once again, like with other reflex responses, we just take it for granted that we are going to get upright in gravity and we're going to get up and get moving. And it's not until we're not moving well or not moving that we really start to think about it. I think, when you see a baby come out and they really kind of look like they're flattened into the bed, well, they really kind of are, because they've been in that watery environment and now they're out of that. And that means, learning how to get upright. I mean, that's that learning how to rock so that you can get to crawling, so you can get to pulling up to standing. Even that first getting up to sit up straight so you can sit on your own.
So they have to learn to control and push against that gravity and control their muscles in that gravity. And that takes years of work.
Holding your head up is heavy. It's one of the heavier parts of your body, right? So learning how to bring that little head up so that you can sit up and balance it on your neck, that's a lot of work for babies. That's a lot of what they're doing in those first months.
Yeah, to me also, it just, that's why when we see children, we don't understand why children have to move so much and why they have to, why they can't sit still. Why can't they just sit still? Well, sitting still and standing still are two of the hardest things that you can do with your muscles, because you are not moving. I say not moving when you are sitting still or standing still. You are actually using micro movements to keep yourself still. You are not without movement. You're using very fine, refined movement to keep yourself that way. And children don't have that yet, so they have a much harder time of sustaining that. And sometimes parents don't understand why they have to move all the time. It's like, because that's the only way they're going to learn how to be still.
And that's kind of what we go back to when we hit that slide in our senior years, when you see the shoulders start to slump and the head come forward, because that pull of gravity, our muscles are no longer quite as strong as they used to be.
I'm constantly fighting it myself. So
pull my shoulders back, put my head up, but you find that because the muscles tone is kind of weakening, unless you're working at it, you get that hunched shoulder and the spine.
The jaw.
And then you
because
start,
it takes tone and muscles and and we have to talk a little bit about that because our work against gravity, our muscles work against gravity, and it results that this is what the gravity sense is all about. The gravity sense, we have our gravity sensory, we have a nose to smell with, we have eyes to see with, but we have an inner ear to feel gravity, right? And it has axes of different axes that we learn through that. And that's why, and I'm not going to go into the whole mechanism of that, but that gravity sense, if that isn't really being subtle, like there's not enough liquid in it, or some of the little crystals in there are starting to lump up. Lots of things can affect the inner self, especially in age, but also just the nerves that go from, there's the cranial nerves that go into the inner ear that come out and help the lower brain deal with the muscles, the automatic muscle control. We don't have to think about, oh, we've got to stay balanced. Oh, we got to stay upright. We shouldn't. I mean, we do as we get older if we have trouble with it. But under normal circumstances, it's an automatic thing. We don't have to spend any time or effort thinking about staying upright and staying balanced. But then if we have an issue with that, and a lot of people have issues they don't even know that they're having with that sense. So let's talk a little bit about when you don't feel secure in gravity. When you're not, I call it not being a friend to gravity. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Well, it makes you a much more tentative person. It makes people more tentative, a little more anxious, because when you think about being able to rely on your body to react under certain situations, you can, for those of us who have a typical development or good motor sensory balance, those movements, you don't think about how that impacts you. You know, you just walk into a room and you assume you're going to be able to deal with whatever's there. And you have a choice as to how you're going to react to that. When you have a challenged sense of that and you're not sure about your balance and you're not sure about your grounding, and you don't know how you're going to react when you walk into that room, and your body may have a triggered reaction that you don't have any control over, it makes for a much more tentative person, or a much more intractable person. I don't like change. I am not going to do this.
I was going to say change is huge for people who have gravity insecurity. I've had clients actually crawl into my room. They're not babies. They crawl into the room because under a situation where they're not sure and they're insecure, they get to the lowest level of safety in gravity, which is all the way to the ground. And that being on their stomach is the most secured gravity place. Being on the back is not. It can be kind of a security challenge for a lot of people to be on their backs. So these are things, if you know these things, you'll see why sleeping is hard for some people, because we fall asleep in gravity. And you know that is our inner ear releasing ourselves, in letting go of that gravity tension so that we can sleep. That's what that sudden jerking is that you're feeling. And people don't always know that, but if that's too on guard, it's hard to go to sleep. It doesn't work too well. So these are things that we work on. There's so many different ways, so many different reflexes and the tone of the muscle, and many things we work on to make this work better for people. It's one of the sensory areas because it's so little known and not really identified as being a problem, and most people don't understand it holistically. They don't see that how much it has to do with everything else. I mean, it has to do with almost everything in our functioning. And so it's very important for that. But we have a couple of minutes. We have like another minute. Wendy, do you want to add anything to the end of our little talk here?
I think the one thing I would like to add to this is that for me, the vestibular, that gravity sense, is a foundational piece. Until that sense is strengthened and working in a better way functionally, everything else that you want someone to do is harder. Any of the you know, the muscle work, the fine motor work, the math, the reading, all of those skills. The vestibular is kind of that foundation, and everything above that is, it's like building a house on a shaky on a sand floor, right?
It is a foundation. It's foundational. Yeah.
And so to me, that's the one thing that I would add, is that this is a very important foundational piece. And if this piece isn't working well, then, you know, you're going to have 10 things up above it that aren't working well either.
Right. And it always seeping up, not just through what we can do, but how we feel and how we look at the world, how we interact socially. It really is basically the number one thing that we see with almost any kind of physical, psychological, emotional issue. And I wish we could start with that, or at least have a piece of that in every area that we're working in those issues, because it would make such a big difference, I think. Yeah. Well, Wendy, thank you so much for coming today, and we will be talking to you soon. I'm sure we have a long list of subjects to go, so we're going to have fun together. Okay, bye.
Bye-bye.